Welcome everyone, it is me Dennis again. As you know, many homeowners are struggling this year financially because their insurance went up and their taxes went up, and now 20 million people are struggling to figure that out how they're going to do those payments of the insurance. And also, they're struggling with their property tax, which went up to 11%, and home insurance went up 8%, and 20 million people are struggling, and they got to pay up to $5,000 for insurance every year, and maintenance is about $20,000 to maintain the house. Insurance crisis, the insurance crisis is up to 7 million homeowners struggling with it, and 6 millions are losing their home in the United States. And there's so many people, up to 126 million people, which is 60%, living paycheck to paycheck, which means the mortgage became very unaffordable. That's the main concern, because it has been over 30 to 40 to 50 million people struggling financially, which they're trying to figure out how to actually do with this payment of the mortgage every month. On top of that, they got to spend money on their maintenance, the roofers, the landscapers, the plumber, electricity, you name it, all kinds of stuff. So many people regretted buying a house because they thought it was going to be simple, but now they have a lot of interest rates on top of that, and then they got to pay the house. They got to pay the insurance no matter what, and then taxes went up, which everybody's complaining about, especially in this state. And I started wondering, like, there's 126 million people that live paycheck to paycheck, which means when I was reading that, I was like, wow, 126 million people living paycheck to paycheck. And it has been massive layoff by many different businesses. It has been over 8 million people looking for a job that they're being laid off. In other words, they're being fired from their job. And it has been 20 million people that are losing their home every year because they can't keep up with these payments. I'm talking about insurance, which is a big scam, and the tax property is just going nonstop. I mean, it's increasing every year, and people started wondering, like, how can I afford to pay these bills? So most of them, they have stopped paying their bills. They have decided to buy a van or an RV to live off the grid in the woods, but they call it a crime by living in those places. So people are struggling financially. People are becoming homeless. People are becoming mental illness because these property taxes is increasing every single year. I mean, it's not a joke. If you look around, there's really not much going on, and they say, well, there's buildings being built. There's the city is building some type of shopping centers and all that kind of stuff. So everything that's around you, even if it's acres away from your property, is still going up no matter what, because your property has got to be right in between or either in the corner of that area. So the whole county is just counting that whole thing, and it's just going up. And you're, even if you just got a raw piece of land, you don't have any mobile home or anything, you're still paying property tax, and it's increasing like you have no idea. It's increasing really bad. And uh I was surprised I had to pay more for a little bit of property that I have, but I was like, man, they're going to skyrocket. So they're charging you more for taxes, they're charging you more for interest rates, they're charging you more for your mortgages, they're charging you more. The rent is going to go up this year as well by 10% more. Grocery is going to go up high again. And it seems like you're paying up to 15 to 20 bills a month. How can you afford to pay all these bills if you're living 126 million people paycheck by paycheck by paycheck? It's skyrocketing. The groceries are skyrocketing. The houses are a joke because not only you have to get the $60,000 down payment, but you have to get the high interest rate every month on top of that mortgage, and then you got to pay that insurance. And then you got to pay the property tax, which is no matter if you have paid it off or not, you still gonna have to pay it. So how much are you really paying for a house in the United States? Wow. I started wondering that it's so almost unaffordable. It's almost impossible to buy a house, no matter how far from the city your area is. But people are struggling financially a lot. People are really struggling because if you look at it, people get their paycheck and they already own it to something, either their credit card, their home insurance, car insurance. Don't even get me started. Back in the days, I remember you used to get an SUV for 20 grand or maybe 15. Now you're gonna have to pay $10,000 down payment for an SUV, and that car is gonna cost you 70 grand, $70,000. So how in the world can you afford to buy a car? How can you actually afford to pay that full cover insurance? Can you imagine that? I mean, all the money that you're paying for insurance, the money that you're paying for a home insurance, man, where's all this money going to? Who is up there stacking all that money and being all greedy and becoming the CEO? Like, how in the world does this works? That never really make any sense to me because people are struggling to get a job. It's 126 million people in this country uh, losing their home, struggling to pay the house, struggling to pay the mortgage, struggling to pay the insurance, the tax, property tax, the high interest rates, struggling to pay that credit card, struggling to pay the car insurance, the car note. Oh my lord, it's insane. How in the world can you actually really afford to pay all these amounts? So if you're a homeowner, what kind of advice would you give me? What kind of advice can I hear from you? What would be the best for me to buy a house? How can I get an affordable home where I don't have to pay a whole lot of mortgage, interest rates, property tax, and you name it, all kinds of, it goes on and on and on. Um, because now I don't think a car, I don't think you own a car or a house or land. I think they own you instead, because I think you're just working your whole life to pay it off, which you never will. Because once you pay off the house, you're still gonna have to pay property tax. You're still gonna have to pay insurance. You're still gonna have to pay electricity, water. Oh my goodness, it's insane. I mean, the way we're heading right now, crisis is right around the corner. There's a lot of crisis ahead. There's the economy has never been the worst in the history. I heard about this furniture store that it was in business. He even survived the recession in 1930, the greatest depression. It survived it in 1930, and now they're shutting down their business after 134 years, which is insane. I mean, are you really kidding me? That's not the greatest economy. Yeah, house insurance and how property taxes are way out of control. And I hope you all enjoyed this video. You all take care. God bless.